right now.
Car wash.
I'm like, you just made me waste a whole day.
All right, let me double check. What's up, YouTube land?
Let's get
What's up, Facebook land?
Sent you this picture.
We are live.
It's on Instagram. Posted mine, and she said,
We're live.
"Yeah, that's cool." I said, "Send me one, and I'll get fixed up and send it back to you." She said,
A
"Okay."
minute or two. Make sure we get all our peeps in here.
The writer. She said, "That's really cool. I can use that for my promos." I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "As soon as she said, I got it."
Just you know,
Huh?
just with the app, with that app.
Yeah, just with the app. Yeah,
That's
she's an Amber.
Hold on.
wow. That's really funny.
Technical difficulties.
All right, so we're live. Technical difficulties as usual, but it wouldn't be us if it didn't happen that way. Can you still see comments from it?
No.
All right, well, we'll go off our page. Excuse me. All right, so let's start off by saying anything we discuss is our own opinion. We're not here to make you believers or non-believers in the paranormal. It's up to you to make that decision. So tonight we have our returning guest, Cindy Sauer, and we also have Jason Brett. Is that correct, Jason? Did I say it right?
That's it.
So, Cindy is in the process of writing a book on her experiences. So, how far are you right now, Cindy, in the book?
I am a little over 2/3 of the way through at this point. So it's I've come to a bit of an impasse. So I had to take a break for a few days.
That's
It's tough writing sometimes.
yeah. So, what has transpired since you've been writing the book? Anything happen? Any relapses? Anything to that effect?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've had some. It's been quite interesting, actually. We've had it's pretty getting normal occurrence at this point. Seeing, you know, I see
Yeah.
those pretty good bit almost every day at this point. And I know we've seen things out of the corner of our eye. We had a really interesting incident I'll get into in a little bit. I had it with my daughter, which was pretty crazy. It progressed a little bit. I've had a few scratches, just marks that appear, and it feels like a burn. You know, it's kind of typical stuff. And something might show up, or it could be just a big blotch. Looks like a sunburn. Sometimes it's a pattern. I've had that a few times, and a couple of times around my neck, just marks, like it just burns and red marks around my neck. So that's, you know, it's happened a few times. But as far as relapses, I have had a few incidents that have happened recently. So a couple have been pretty full blown. It's not what we want to happen, but it has happened. And it's more than likely because I'm digging so much and you know, just rehashing things. It's hard to write. You know, it's tough to write either way. But
So it sounds like that they don't want you to tell the story.
that would be probably, that's my best guess at this point. But it's also allowed me to kind of dig deeper and to ask more questions, to talk to some more people, and, you know, maybe get a few more answers. I mean, not that there are, you know, concrete answers that you can get, but just some things that, you know, might lead you down a path to sort of, you know, gather some sort of information, if not for myself, then for other people to go on.
Right.
So that's sort of our goal anyway. And he's, you know, seen a lot of what has happened. He can offer more insight on things because there are times I forget. And the attacks themselves there have been a couple. There was the one in the kitchen that was
Yeah,
pretty. It
that
was bad. It was pretty bad. But you know, there are parts I can't tell you because I can't, you know, relate what it's like to be on that side of it. I just know what happens to me, which is bad enough. But the attack in the kitchen was, I can't remember how long it was. I don't, like, from the beginning. I get sort of in this state of distraction, and I can't focus on anything. So just, I'm sort of all over the place, but it's sort of, it comes to a point where I kind of go inward because it's really hard to fight it off. So I kind of turn inward to fight it, but I lose track of kind of what's going on around me, and I lose track of time. So I'm not really sure, you know, how much time has transpired since I kind of turned inward. And I'm not sure what physically I'm doing at that time. I know I'm still in quiet, but I'm not really sure exactly what I'm doing. So, I mean, he can tell you that more than I can. I don't know, you know, what happens, what I'm doing when it starts to happen.
Yeah, it's like she just kind of, she's gone, if that makes sense.
Yep.
For instance, in the kitchen, the attack, she was leaning against the stove and just staring off into space. And after about 3 to 5 minutes, you know, time is always kind of instances where you think it's longer than it is, or you think it's shorter than it is. So I always give a range. It was probably 3 to 5 minutes by my reckoning. And she's just looking off and just had this, there's always a tail. And I tell her that
And I don't know what that
and
is.
she doesn't know what it is, but there's always a tail that you recognize as, okay, something's happening here. And it's subtle, but it's distinct at the same time. So I walked in there and I grabbed her by the shoulders. I said, I put my hands on her shoulders. I said, hey, you okay? And she starts shaking her head no. And then we have to pray, and all this other stuff happens, and the, you know, the voices and the contorting, and then it goes away. And she doesn't remember anything. And she said, all I remember is, you know, you said something with Lily. She was doing something. And I said, that was a full 10 minutes before you were standing at the stove. So you were standing at the stove, just completely gone. Just,
I had no idea.
and each time it's kind of, but there have been probably 3 in a month, would you say? Or 2 months? Yeah, probably a 6
No,
weeks.
I'd say 3 in a month, because
Oh, yeah,
even
'cause
before
the other
that,
one- yeah,
there were
yeah.
a couple. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of a regular thing at this point. The one I would say, the one standing in front of the stove, it was a few weeks ago, was probably the worst one so far. And what happened, and what I remember is, before that happened, before I was standing in front of the stove, I knew something was wrong. I can feel them. It's kind of like a weight in your gut almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I get fidgety because I know they're trying to get in, not really get in, but trying to take control. And I fidget because I'm trying to take that control back. And I walked away from everyone where they couldn't see me. And I just was really trying to fight, but my face just twisted and my tongue stuck out way too far. And this is going on, you know, and I'm like trying to stop it. And then this like horrifying yes, really long drawn out yes comes out of me. And I don't know what it meant. I don't know why it happened, but I stood there just trying to regain control of just my face and my vocal cords, but I felt it down inside. And so when I finally got control of that, I tried to just completely fight it off. I don't want people to know this is happening. I don't want them to have to deal with it. So I try to stop it the best that I can. But that day there was no stopping it. And it kept, you know, coming back, and it's in waves, and it kept coming in waves and coming in waves. And I finally there was nothing I could do. And you just have to kind of surrender to it. And, I can remember, it's hard to remember. I can remember noises, coming out of me. I remember like I was swelling, like my gut was actually like protruding. And it's just fuzzy. I remember that, and I remember something with my eyes and my face. But it's really it makes you sore. Like it's not. It can be painful when it happens, but there's a point where it's not anymore. But you're very sore after, and it takes a little bit of time after to recuperate and kind of recover. I'm at the point now where I don't completely break down after it happens, and I don't just kind of lose it. I used to really lose it, and it was just horrifying. But at this point, I just kind of pick myself up and can continue with my day the best I can. And I mean, take a drink of water and just push forward. So, but that one was hard to recover from that one.
Yeah.
Now, was there ever at any point when you were writing your book where you could not write one sentence because it didn't want you to tell the story?
Yeah. And I'm getting into that now. That's what's so hard right now is there was a part I was recently writing about the very first attack, and it happened at the really big house that we went to investigate. And when I was getting into explaining the turmoil of energy that was around us, and this, I won't give away too much, but the very beginning of what I knew was, essentially it was like hell coming down upon me. And when that happened, and I had to try to write that, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I thought I lost the whole book. I mean, it's just one thing after another, but there are certain parts where I'm at now where we're getting into the meat of the possession and leading up into, the exorcism itself. And this is the sticky stuff. And this is where I've got to kind of, I really have to lay it out the right way, but at the same time, this does not want to be written. So I have to write it and, kind of just deal with what happens. So I pray a lot, and I choose my time wisely. And so, it comes off as sort of, like not wanting to write, but it's not that I don't. I just have to choose my time wisely because, there are external factors that you have to take in as far as what's going on around you and the kids and what they're doing. But the energy changes just around me when I start to write. It does. And there are times when I can't do it. I just can't. I break down and I can't. So, right now it's sort of a kind of like playing Russian roulette, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's, I don't like him to have to deal with these things.
Well, speaking of him, Jason, how do you deal with this?
What's that?
How do you deal with this? When things happen, how do you deal with it?
You just do. Going back to the show was really, I don't know, I think it kind of presented things. I know they had to tell a story. They crammed about 1.5 years worth of experiences into that 1 hour episode. And they made it sound like I was some, guy that went around and cast out demons all the time. That was not the case. Growing up Pentecostal, there was always a demon around every corner. And when I was being interviewed by the production staff, I told them, I said, I had people often tell me, I think my child's demon possessed. And you can't tell them, you're an expletive parent. You just need to parent your kid better. You can tell them that, but you have to be tactful about it. But 9 out of 10, that wasn't the case. There was only one case that I saw where a person kind of slid around on the floor like a snake. And I was probably 17, I think, at the time. I told Cindy, and that was at a home church. So that part of the story, I'm like, they take something, and no, I did not go around, and I hadn't dealt with this on a regular basis, but I had enough of a background, and I do have a theology degree to where, and I was a minister for probably 16 years, to where you understand how to deal with some of this stuff, but you're not prepared. And it also changes your theology. As far as dealing with it daily, you just deal with it daily because it's a blow to your ego, number one, because you're a person of faith and power, and you're taught, you have the authority of Christ. You can cast these out. You cannot. And I tell people that you would be amazed how many people have tried to give us a prescription. This, you've got to press into God. And I'm like, we just laugh because that's not how it works. Yes, you have faith and power and authority in Christ, but that's also the only hope you have. If he doesn't show up, then you've just got to rest in the fact and the comfort of, okay, if God's not here, if he's okay with this going on, I don't need to worry, but I need to know how to deal with it. And we really looked into several other different avenues. One of them being, what fascinates me is this concept of the third eye with the pineal gland. And I think that once that's opened, there's an easier way for them to see you. If it's closed, they can't see you as much. But if it's open, it's like a beacon. And I think sometimes maybe hers gets opened and she doesn't know it, doesn't know how it turned on, and you can't turn it, and then bam, they're there. Now I do know when she's weak or angry or frustrated or tired or has anxiety, which can be, once a month or once every other day. It just depending on how life is when you have 3 kids and animals and stuff to deal with. I know it looks for those moments, but I always go back to there's faith in Christ. I don't feel threatened by them. I don't think that it's going to kill or hurt. I don't go to bed at night and think, oh my God, am I going to wake up with a knife in my throat? People ask me that all the time. How do you deal with that? Well, look at her. She loves me. She's not looking to knife me or whack me like the mob here.
And it has tried to persuade me to do things. I mean, there was one definite time I remember, and it was actually right before the second exorcism, and I was doing dishes and cleaning up from Thanksgiving dinner, and putting dishes in the dishwasher, and I had this butcher knife. And he was standing somewhere with his back toward me. And it was just like, just go ahead and, pick it up. And descriptively, says to stab him in the back. I mean, it's showing me exactly the way that I should do this. And I'm just, like, what? There's a point where your thoughts and these thoughts that are being impressed upon you kind of intertwine where you can't pull them apart. And I was at that point then, and there are still times when it gets me and it's like, oh, wait a minute, that's not me. So it starts to integrate with you so much that it's hard to pull apart from yourself, which is, and it's a scary thing to think about. And you wonder, okay, when this thing is gone, did it eat this hole in me that's not, what's going to happen when it's completely gone? Is it going to take part of me with it? Because I don't know what's me anymore and what's not me. It's a really strange thing to even explain. It's because it's not the stuff that you hear. You see this on TV, you see people, pretend to be possessed, but there's so much that's completely lost. Through that, you're not able to understand what's really happening, what happens inward. So
now, if she would have stabbed me in the back, that probably would have been a turning point in our relationship, I think.
Well,
well, and I don't know if there's counseling, that it's funny because over here, we're just kind of glad that we don't get recognized in public, but which we do sometimes. We do some every now and then, but you can't just sit down and open up and tell people, because immediately they're going to tell you, well, you're crazy, or I don't believe. And that's fine. I'm not trying to convince you, but I know when I met her, she told me certain things she'd been diagnosed with. And I said, that's wrong. Cause I owned a pharmacy at the time. And I told her, I said, you're not this, not at all. So when we finally, after Cade was born and everything, we went to a doctor and she got a diagnosis with anxiety. And he said, it can mask as these other things. I'm like, well, there you go. It kind of makes sense then, that all of this, this other stuff, and those demonic entities, they feed off of that. They're liars. They're cheats. They're going to tell you whatever they want you to hear, to make you feel like they've got you, like they've got control. Do we need to see what?
Yeah, I'm going to take a break.
Okay.
Just 1 second.
Yeah. The baby's crying over there, but that's where they're going to do anything that they can to make you think whatever it is they want you to think. And it took a while for us to get to a point in our relationship where we understood that. because when it's telling her a lie and it's saying it's going to do this, and she's like, it knows what you're thinking. I said, it doesn't know what I'm thinking. It wants to tell you that. And she's like, well, you were thinking this. I said, yeah, I was thinking some of those things, but I'm telling you, it's going to tell you a lie every time. And we would fight and argue over stupid stuff and not understand what's going on. And then we would look back and go, okay, this thing tries to really sneak in and cause turmoil and swirl things up, et cetera. So, just silly stuff that I'm thinking, and then she wouldn't even remember the argument. It's really hard. And there are times now where I'll tell her, hey, remember when we were, in Loganville and this, she goes, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I don't. And she doesn't remember the conversation, what day it was. And that's when it's kind of hard to navigate, but dealing with it day to day, you just deal with it. You don't ever expect, bad things to happen or anything like that. And when they do, you just kind of, you trust in God and say, hey, here we are. We're going to keep doing what we know to do. But any other information you have would be nice.
Now, I'm sure you've been asked this, and you kind of touched on it a little bit. Have you ever gone to the doctors, maybe thinking that, okay, well, we know what we went through. Could there be side effects to this? And have you ever gone to the doctors to get diagnosed for anything else? Not that I want to know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Have you taken that route?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And before and after as well.
Yeah.
And, the anxiety had to be addressed as well. I believe that is a product, because I really didn't suffer from anxiety before to this level. Not like now. I just think it does, it changes you. There's no way for it not to change you.
Yeah.
But, I've been thoroughly checked at a doctor, and, everything's fine physically, and I'm not crazy.
Yeah. And
So,
mentally that he undid a lot of those other,
yeah.
I was like, you got to go, because this, I'm telling you, this is wrong, because I dealt with these kind of people every day doing what I did every day. And I really think that was kind of a God thing, putting people together to say, hey, you're not crazy.
They do say the doctor said, I suffer from PTSD, which, okay. And anxiety. So I have an anxiety or panic disorder. And, if that's all I've garnered through this entire thing, then I guess I'm okay. If it could be so much worse. And there are people that it is so much worse for. And people who end their lives over it, or end other people's lives over it. And I'm completely convinced of that.
Because it's demoralizing. And they think that they've done something. Most prescriptions for demonic cases are, the person did something to open a doorway and let them in, or the person lives a certain kind of lifestyle and they've dealt with this and that, or there was some causal event. And I tell them, while that may be the case, there are also a couple of instances in Scripture where you point out there's this kid, and the parents say, listen, this demon often grabs our son and tries to throw him in the water to drown him, or in the fire to burn him. Never mentions anything about the boy other than that. And if you to read a Jewish book, something always means something in Jewish writing. So for something to be absent speaks to the fact that one with the boy was not important, indicating that there was not a causal event. He didn't, play with a spirit board or anything like that. He was just a Jewish boy. And they're like, well, what's going on here? And Jesus kind of says this. It's really, it almost comes across as a BS line, and it's not meant to, where he says, well, this was meant for, and you're going, or the glory of the Father, and you're going, well, thanks. So you're okay with this kid suffering, so God's glory can be displayed. And the answer, it's hard to wrestle with. I guess if we get our own universe, we can do it our own way. But yeah, it's almost like he's saying that those demons, you let me deal with them, and don't worry about why it's happening, or if something was opened up. Don't let those stickers stick to you, because that's what happens. And she had to deal with that for a while. And then she'll say, even every now and then, she'll say, I just feel like sometimes I'm going crazy. And you have to always go back to the logic thing of, if you're ever asking yourself, am I going crazy? By default, you're not going crazy, because crazy people don't ask that. They say, there's a unicorn in the room blowing up balloons. Let's all go ride it. They're not going to say, am I going crazy?
Well, when you have things telling you things, it's hard to it's hard to understand how that's happening and why it's happening and why these things are talking to you. There was an incident not too long ago, and I was just sitting on the couch, and I started to feel anxious, and I saw this sea of, like, it was just a sea over to a horizon, and they were just all fighting like dogs and growling and snapping at each other. Just so many of them. And hearing that they're all waiting for their opportunity, their chance to attack me. So that's pretty disconcerting. You don't want to, not something you even want to think about, but just essentially saying, there are thousands of whatever this is that decided it wants to hone in on me. And, I guess it's got a lot of beings to do its dirty work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to explain. It's just hard to fathom, but I that's one thing I did see recently. And the other thing that I was going to talk about was it was a couple of months, maybe a month and a half ago or so. My daughter and I were on, and we were coming inside, and there was this sound, and it's one of those sound. It jolted you. It was immediate, and it sounded like a herd of bulls running at us. But there was a sound like a loud hissing, like a snake hissing. And we turned around to look, and this is broad daylight, and it was coming from the corner of the yard. You could see the grass just kind of swoosh, like there was this wind, and it came barreling at us. This sound did, but you could see the grass move. And it was just instantaneous for about 4 seconds, and then it just stopped right in front of the house. Stopped, and it was gone. The whole wind, everything just quit. It was crazy. But it sounded like a bull snake. I mean, a snake. I mean, that's the only thing that I could even be able to describe it. But it just, I mean, it doesn't matter day or night. Things could happen. But that was one of the really weird things that happened recently.
Now,
there are probably more than I can remember.
do you ever
Go
think
ahead.
maybe at some point when all this stuff is going on that maybe God sent some of his angels down to defend you? I mean, have you ever had that kind of feeling, like that there was?
I do.
Trying to remember the word, but
Yeah.
Divine, anything divine.
do.
That's what I'm looking for.
I do. I really do. I actually do. And I pray for that a lot. That's one of the things that I pray for. I pray that God, will send the archangels to protect me. I particularly hone in on Saint Michael.
Yeah.
And
The dude's a badass.
I do that often. In fact, the other day I walked in my room, and I see this light. It's a big ball of energy, and it was a really beautiful, bright, kind of royal blue color, and just electric. And it just went from the floor to the ceiling and just went up through the ceiling.
Now, when stuff like that happens, do you ever go, Jason, get in here. You got to see this. I mean,
You know what? Sometimes yes, but a lot of times it's so normal. It just is so. It's really such a common occurrence around here that we just kind of like.
And we both see it together. That one night we were in the back room, and there was
we
a blue light just like
a
electricity.
little cursor.
And I told her, no, it wasn't little. It was about the size
Well,
of an
yeah,
egg.
it was-
but then it had the little spiral, and she said, yeah. And then it smelled like a cigarette smoke.
Yeah.
We get people. We've had to tell people, hey, we got to sleep. You're not just gonna want, because
I've had to do
I
that.
see things before I feel them, and she feels things before. But I see people, and she can tell you, I've seen people that aren't, and I'd had to go back and research and say, what's going on here? And the guy said, well, there was a plantation. That's probably who you saw. I said, yeah, he was a big black farmer, like he looked like he was 7 feet tall,
But
but,
they
he was
tell me
smiling, and then
things.
just they talk to
tell
her, they
me
just
stuff.
look at me and smile, or just look kind of stoic. Then you see them for maybe a second and a half, and then they're gone. And then I used to think, oh, I'm seeing things. Now I know I'm seeing things. It's not, it's not like I'm just making this up. It's really kind of funny.
Now it becomes so second nature. You're like, hey, how are you?
It is.
Coffee, take up a seat, you know.
It does, because I do regularly have to say, just knock it off.
Yeah.
Just stop it, because we get other things other than the Moldau in battle. It's not, like everything's just crazy all the time. But it's a pretty regular occurrence. So.
And we think those are separate. We're not those people that, growing up in the church, you're taught everything's either an angel or a demon. That there's a demonic, there's an angelic, and then there are spirits or people, whatever you want to call them, walking around, because we see them. That house, we saw it, and we described it to a T together. It's really weird.
But I think that there are things we just can't even imagine too. You know, there are things that I don't know. We know very little.
I do have a question in Facebook chat, and Mariah is asking, in your experience, which is more dangerous, younger figures or older?
What figures? What'd they say?
Younger or older figures?
Older
figures?
Good question.
Or does it really matter?
I mean, yeah.
I didn't hear what you said. Say it again. Hooded figures, or
in her experience with what she's been going through, are younger figures or older figures? What was the question again? I'm saying it wrong. Sorry.
Younger or older figures.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What's more dangerous, younger figures or older?
We don't like hearing little girls.
I don't like
I
hearing
really-
No.
We don't,
No.
and we've had that a couple times, and we're like, and I mean,
We've
I've seen a
seen
white,
them,
a little
like,
girl in a white dress run past the window
The
outside.
thing is, and we've seen the little girls a lot. Let me tell you.
At the other house, her friend pulled up, and 3 girls get out, and they all come inside, and we said, "Where's the other little girl?" And Cindy told her, and she said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "That little brown-haired girl." They never. But I'm telling you, there were
and they say,
and her daughter saw it too.
They say, "Mom." They'll just Mom. It's like that's not my child.
No.
In fact, that happened the other day.
No black eyed
No, I
children.
know, but it happened the other day, and you said that's not the kids. And I
Oh
said,
yeah.
No black eyed children, I hope.
No.
No, not yet.
No.
Not yet. No black-eyed children, no Wendigo, no.
Show up. We'll be on that first test flight to Mars to colonize.
No, we
or
won't.
something. Yeah.
Not with
I'm
me.
dragging you.
You're
will.
gonna go without
I'll
me.
drug you or
I
something.
know,
We're
not
getting-
happening.
We'll talk about it later.
No, we won't talk about that. I have to go to my quiet place now.
Oh.
Yes, I'm nervous.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to put in YouTube chat, Facebook chat. Cindy will talk about what she can talk about without giving away too much of the book. I'm actually really excited about the book because I want to read it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to read it.
Yeah. You have.
When it's all done, it's coming together, but it kind of takes a life on of its own, And there are parts that have been really cool to write. That have really, it's been nostalgic. There are things actually I remember while I'm writing. I'm like, wait a minute, I know, and I'll put it in there. And I mean, I can't put every single detail in and every single conversation in. Relevant, I definitely do. And right now, I'm timelining out the rest of it so that I can get it down. And organization is not my forte. So you can ask him about it. It's not. So
is there any chance?
I'm getting there.
Is there any chance that maybe you can leak us the name of your book?
Yes, the name of the book is the same as the book page. It is called The Possession of Cindy Sauer.
Okay.
And
they can search that on Facebook, of course, and
yes,
find
they
it
can.
there.
I didn't want to stray too far from the actual, the episode of A Haunting. But I didn't want it to be the same for obvious reasons.
Right.
But because it doesn't just, the show is more about an exorcism. This actually chronicles from my earliest recollection, which is when I was a child. So this is my whole life. This isn't just part of what happened. This is from the beginning to the first
Oh,
exorcism.
that's good. So you got your childhood until present.
Yes. So that gives you a really, really solid background on the events that led up. And there are some pretty tough things in there to, that I had to write. They're tough. And
It's been cathartic for her, because there's some stuff that she still grieves, and it wouldn't be stuff that you necessarily think about. But when I read it, I'm like, wow, that had to be tough for her to write. And it's a good read. She's very Stephen King-esque in her writing. It's very descriptive.
Yeah. I really feel like I need to convey as much of what it feels like to someone that I can, and do it justice. That was a big issue for me, is wondering, can I do it? And I realized that I'm the only one that really can do it, and really make it be what it's supposed to be. So, it's been a healing process. There's of course grief. You go through a gambit of emotions, but it's not like writing a fiction work. It's the real stuff, and I hope that resonates with people, because this stuff that I'm writing, I'm not taking it and expounding on it or elaborating on it or spicing it up.
Yeah.
I'm just writing what happened, and
right.
to the best of my knowledge, and trying to convey what it was like. So that's the bigger part that I hope people really take with them, is this is the real thing. It's not made up. So
Okay, so I have another question, and at this time it's from Alec. We know that you've dealt with the demonic, and in your experience. But the question he's asking is, how many ghosts have you had at one time? Now, have you ever had ghosts while having these experiences, or has it all been demonic? Has it all been negative?
And you know what? I don't think it's that we've ever had a particular ghost, but they come through. They kind of pass through.
They're very transient.
Yeah.
Or they're bound to a location.
Us, they are. Yeah, I think so too. There's nothing bound to the place we're at now. This particular house. But they come and go, and we have been places in the area locally where there are ghosts that I've come across, and I don't even like to say that word. I mean, they're spirits.
Yeah.
They're just people that aren't here, and I don't know. I'm not really comfortable with ghosts, because ghost kind of denotes that it's a white figure that's floating around in an old house with rattling chains and stuff,
right.
And it's not like that. So
a friend of mine has a good definition of ghosts and spirits. His name is Jeff. Ghosts, in his belief, are more of residual. They're
yes, absolutely,
energy replaying itself over and over and over again.
Agreed.
Spirits are the more intellectual beings. The more they can interact with you.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
I do have a question, and I think we've already touched on it, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Judy says, are they talking about the present? Did an exorcism get rid of the occurrences? So by the sounds of it, not totally.
Yeah,
because
not totally.
And we're not convinced that that's
the answer.
That's a cure-all. Yeah, because just delving back and going back, I do think, because again, the first exorcism, when Father Darren showed up, I met him outside, and he said, "Has she been baptized?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "If she's been baptized, she can't be possessed." And I said, "I'm just going to tell you," I said, I'm a Pentecostal minister. You're a Catholic. I said, "You just need to." Well, he's not, but at the time I thought he was, but he's not.
He's not. He's Orthodox.
He's Orthodox. But Oh, and he's Anglican.
Yes.
So
Lord stuff.
I said, you just need to come inside and see what's going on, because it twists your theology. Because at that point you realize she'd been baptized in the Methodist Church, and yet there's still this thing attacking. And I was told, you cast it out, and I did that what I felt God led me to do at the CVS parking lot, which was that's a moment that I really felt like he was there. And you think, okay, is it gone? Is it? And you just, I don't think that exorcism is an end game, but I don't think it's not part of the prescription either, if that makes sense. I'm reading several of the resources we have. It talks about people that are plagued for years, and some of them for months, some of them for weeks. There's no real cutoff time. They just, and they're not like you see in a theater where they're tied to it. It's just these priests that are known to go in and perform exorcisms and say, hey, okay, here we go. And that's what they do. They kind of go in and say, hey, let's do this and this and this. And they just have to keep going through the process and revisit. So your ears ringing.
I was just going to ask, Cindy, what do you got going on?
A book. What,
Yeah, I just see you playing with your ear. That's why
yeah, I know.
asking
I'm
you.
trying to. Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, sometimes my ears will ring.
Yeah.
Sorry, and it's a little bit. It's distracting.
Yeah.
And usually when things are kind of hovering, I get a little confused and my ear will ring, and I have to cover it. So sorry. Sorry.
I don't get nervous until she starts floating.
All right. So we have a question from Alicia. Does Cindy believe in attachments? Cindy?
Yeah, I do. I do. I believe just as much as the spirit can be attached to a place, it can also be attached to a person. I do believe in demonic attachment before possession. There is attachment, and then there's oppression, and then possession. I also believe that it can be stopped before it reaches full-fledged possession if you know what you're dealing with.
Mm.
That is another reason why I want to talk to people, to get this book out, to inform people, because it's important to catch it. You can catch it and stop it.
Well,
And
I don't mean to cut
firmly
you
believe
off.
that it'll.
I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's funny that you say the 3 stages of possession. Now, Ryan and I had an experience once. It was in a movie theater, which we frequently went to, and
Yeah.
I want to say there was something. I did feel oppressed at one point, which I believe is the beginning stage.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yes.
well, it was just, I don't know. I took care of it. I caught it quickly because
Yeah.
I didn't feel like myself for a few days. And,
Were you tired?
well, yeah, and I was grouchy, and I was just
grouchy.
not.
Yeah.
I could have snapped your neck and not had a care in the world.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And that night, we were made, both of us at the same time were made to feel sick. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
both of us. And,
Yes, that
I mean,
happens to me.
Thankfully, I kind of caught it quick, so
Yeah.
and that ended that.
That's good. You did. You don't want it. Yeah.
And see, that's what Cindy really, well, I mean, we both do kind of, it's obviously her because she was possessed, but both of us together just go around, because we're convinced there are people that deal with this. They're afraid to speak out because they'll be called crazy. They'll be ostracized. They go to their church. Their church is going to tell them one way, and I already know what their church is going to tell them, and that may not work. Then they lose faith in God, which is the last thing you want. And then, so what do? They just sit there and suffer in silence. I mean, paranormal wise, we have no interest in going in with whirligigs and trying to prove something is or isn't there.
Really?
Yeah, that you see on TV, because most of that is hype. It's guys like you that are in it for the right reasons. You document, you verify, and you're there. Kind of like the Ghost Hunter show. We still love watching that because they were really trying to help people and do stuff. And we see the grassroots paranormal movement as, hey, these guys are solid, legitimate. They're doing it, and they're not just trying to be grandiose and whatever. But the rest of it on TV, I'm going, are you kidding me? Some of them you just want to tag in the face a few times till your arm goes limp and feel good about life. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah,
But
we're
no,
not going to talk about that.
No. But the thing that is challenging is that, people say you have to, you just got to stay strong, because they're like, well, you're still being bothered. Why don't you just depend on God? You've got to pray. You need Jesus, and these things, the thing is, I have those things, I do that. I've got to do things that most people don't have to do.
Yeah.
I've got to watch for things most people don't, and I've got to be careful. But
And you have to do it all the time, or
constant.
else.
But
Yeah.
you can't be that way all the time.
You can't.
Right.
And it's
You
rough.
can't be strong every day. You can't not go through bad things. You can't not be upset or have anxiety or have a bad day. You can't.
Right.
And you're always at risk. So when people say, well, if you're strong, you can get through it. You can defeat it. You can make it go away. But how are you supposed to be that strong all the time? Are you trying to tell me that I can't have a weak moment, that I'm not allowed to be weak? Because that's human nature. So I struggle with that because I thought, this is my fault. I just can't defeat this. And it's my fault because I'm weak. But
And it's not the case at all.
You can't.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works. It just doesn't work that way. So I think that's the part we've got to figure out is how to deal with the weak moments and how to eventually get to a place to where, it's just not there anymore. And
there's always strength
that's
in
what
numbers.
Yeah. So I think part of my healing is helping other people. And part of my
Right.
healing is this book, against all odds and against whatever the heck it doesn't want me to do that. It's a risk, I suppose, but if I didn't do it, then who would? Because I don't know anybody else that could do it.
And
So-
it's why venues like this are important, because if you watch TV again, you see the paranormal community trying to solve a demonic problem, and they can't. But when you get into a forum where you can discuss and people seek understanding and okay, here we go. And then you have the flip side where for years the church has tried to solve a demonic problem and they can't because they're not God. So if you follow this formula and it doesn't work, there's something wrong with Jason or something wrong with Cindy, and that's not the case. So having a forum where we really exist to say, hey, here's what we've dealt with, here's how we deal with it. We're here to be a sounding board. We want to help you and give you the resources we have is phenomenal, because we've been introduced to several people that were just complete letdowns. Honestly, a few of them were, well, this guy, blah, blah, blah. And the word demonologist is always so funny, because I think that they think they're a prescription solver. They're just a dictionary.
Yeah,
they're a reference. They're not and it's like, man, and so you sit there and talk to them. Wow.
For me, what's interesting is speaking to someone who is, a demonologist or, something to that nature, and they try to tell me about demons, and I'm like,
You don't have a clue, buddy.
Talk to the hand.
Get back to me when you talk to one. Get back to me when they tell you things and when they, are part of your body for a certain amount of time. Then you can tell me about demons.
When you hear somebody you love speak Aramaic and they don't know that, and you say, well, what did you say? And they speak it, and I know the words, and then you write it down, and I look it up because I'm like, I knew enough Hebrew and Greek to know that's you don't know that language. And you look it up and it says, your God vows to me. I was like, wow, you little lion sucker.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And she didn't know what
I know Pig Latin.
Yeah.
That's my second language. That's
Yeah.
I know that in English because I'm from the South.
English.
So that's it. That's, I don't know about that other stuff.
Well, just let me tell you, the proper way to speak Bostonian is just remove the R and put in AH, and you're good. So
Okay.
Ka, go to the ka.
There you go.
Ka,
Yeah.
ka.
You know, but you know-
Yeah.
It might sound funny if I go around saying ka because
Well,
it just doesn't work for me.
Sounds like a bad crow.
It does.
yeah. Park the car in the Harvard Yard. Right?
Hey, I do want to I want to introduce
I'm
you
sorry. Okay,
Oh.
go ahead.
to this.
Aw.
This is Nefertia. And he is a baby Sasquatch. Isn't he
That's
cute?
awesome.
Nice.
That's
That is
awesome.
cute.
He's adorable. He's good.
We're Bigfoot people too.
He's gonna be
That's
famous
awesome.
one day, but it's a shameless plug because we love these people so much. So let's see, let's get it in there.
There you
If
go,
you know
Jeff.
anything about Bigfoot, you know Expedition Bigfoot Rocks. It's in Georgia.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
it's in
Blue
Blue Ridge. If you're ever there, you got to go visit because they are the foremost on Bigfoot stuff. They have lots of things.
David
and they're
and
awesome.
David and Melinda Bakar
David,
are
yes,
they do what you guys do for the Bigfoot community. They're the real deal.
they're
So,
great.
Yeah.
We love them,
Nice.
and that's where Nefertiti
I
came
really
from.
want one of those.
And you can go to Expedition Bigfoot and get your own.
I was gonna say, I think I might need to make a trip. Another trip.
So, yeah. Anyway, shameless plug. Sorry, guys.
Oh, hey, that's totally fine. I got no problem with that. I got no problem with that at all. What do we got? I'm just checking to see if we got any questions here for you.
Okay. And by the way, too, you will get a signed. You guys are going to get your own very own signed
Thank
Nice.
you.
hard copy edition of the book when it comes out.
Thank
Yay!
you. Thank
Now-
you. So excited.
Now, we got about 10 minutes left, so let's touch a little
Okay.
bit more on the book.
All right.
Where are they going to be able to get the book?
I am working right now. After I finish it, the manuscript is going to go to a few publishers, several publishers, and from then there, it's going to be sort of a, you know, a game
It'll be
to
a
see.
selection process
Yeah,
for
it'll
sure.
be
yeah.
a selection process, and it'll be
Very good.
happen pretty quick after that. And then I'm going to post updates on the page. I haven't been recently because I'm trying to kind of filter this in a little at a time. I don't want to overwhelm everyone at once. But that being said, I am going to post a snippet of the book on the page. I'm going to start posting, a few sentences here and there. Yes, so I am going to pick some good stuff that I'm about to write, and I will post some here and there, and you will get an idea of what's gonna come. So I'm
So-
excited.
It's awesome.
What page are you going to be posting this on? Your Facebook page?
Yes, I'm going to post it on my Facebook page, which is Cindy Heisel Sauer, HeuselsSauer. You can find me there. Also on my public figure page, which is
Cindy Heisel.
yeah, but isn't it Cindy Haunted?
Just if they just type in Cindy,
Sauer,
they'll
they'll
find
find it. Cindy Sauer on that one. And then on the book page, which is the title of the book, The Possession of Cindy Sauer. So I will post them on all three forums so that people can see them.
Then Craigslist, Backpage, 4chan. No, we're not going to.
4chan?
Hey, go deep web. You never know. Stir them up.
Yeah, it might. It might be good enough for deep web. You never know. Could.
So, how do the other family members in your household feel about the book that are able to understand that you're writing one?
Well, my daughter Lily she's excited. She's very supportive. She's mom's little cheerleader, and she's really excited about it. My other two daughters, they don't live with us. They're big girls, but they are also excited, especially Chastity. She was the one that was featured on the show.
Nice.
Okay.
People ask about that sometimes and say, why don't you have all your other 13,000 other children on the show? I don't really have that many. I got a lot of them, but it's because they just were.
Yeah, 5.
And it's because they were the younger ones where I didn't want them exposed to it, and I kept them away from it as much as possible. Even the exorcism part. The younger two know nothing,
Yeah, they don't.
and
We shield them from that.
and I shielded Lily when she was younger about it. She learned about it when she got older, but because I have supportive people who were around me at the time that things were happening, I was able to, they knew when to get them to leave, and when I didn't, when they didn't need to see what was happening. So, they're very protected. There are things around them. There are angels around them. There are spirits around them that protect them a lot. And it's a great thing. People ask, well, have you ever been afraid anything's going to happen to you? I've never been afraid of that. And I'm an extremely maternal person. And there's never been an incident where it's like hurt this, child or do that. There's something to be said for God and his protection. And, Why am I going through this? I don't know. And why have I been, you know, to walk this path? Well, I don't know that either, but that's what I'm doing, and I'm going to do the best I can. So, but we do shield them from it. So they're happy, normal, healthy children. Other than they like to run around in the woods and chase Bigfoots. Other than that, they're good.
Now, I have a question. I
Yeah.
have a question. Have you ever given thought to what is going to happen when your card is dealt? Where are you going to go in the afterlife?
Yeah. I think about that all the time.
Okay,
I think about it a lot. I also think about, are they going to, if this is still happening to me, they're going to be there waiting. What?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish I had those answers. Is it scary to think about? Yeah, it is. But again, it's a trust issue where you have to have faith that that God is going to intervene. And I really believe that that's what I have to do. But yeah, it's a very scary thought. I mean, to be waiting. Yeah, I don't want that to happen. I don't know what happens. I couldn't tell you. I think a lot of people might think they know, and I think that they don't know. And it's so much more. There's such a. It's just not black and white. It's not black and white and good and bad. There's a huge gray area that we know nothing about, and I don't have any. There are so many answers I wish I had. There are so many, and I don't, and that's just something I have to reconcile with. And maybe I'll get those answers. I sure hope so. I seek those answers, and I try to do it in the right way. And that's really, that's kind of what I do. So that's part of the struggle. I think it's another thing people don't really understand, but yeah, that's part of what you do. So
Yeah.
I do think about it.
So one of our guests in chat says, Kim, she says, I'd like a signed book too, and another interview. The story is beyond words. I think what we're going to have to do again is go another 4 or 5 months and then touch base with you and get you on here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
happens.
well, I will. Of course.
See
I look forward
what
to it.
happens when you finish the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see what transpired from there. I think that would be pretty
I
interesting.
promise I will keep everybody updated. I promise I'll keep everybody updated.
Awesome.
And I'm gonna do my best to post, pretty regularly here soon, because I'm getting toward the end of the book. So,
All right.
be ready, 'cause this coming week I'm gonna put a teaser out there.
Oh, awesome.
All right.
I'll be
Sweet,
watching.
yeah.
We actually had another question.
Okay.
For those that don't know, Cindy was on Destination America's Haunting, so her story's already been told on television. But the one question I do have is, did you ever think about a movie?
Yeah. If a movie's in the future, then I will definitely, I would love that. It would be really cool. I'm not gonna say it wouldn't. That would be awesome. I would like to have a little bit of, kind of say in the story, because it comes from me. So there's really not much you can, and that's what's so great about this, is that it's not a secondhand story, and it's not a person trying to tell a story that happened to another person, or someone who took this person's story and changed it. This is me. So in order for a movie to happen, it would have to come from what came from me, and it can't be changed. It's the truth, and that the truth can't be. It can be, but
Well, it can, but we were not
But
those whiny people. You know how sometimes movies come out and they're not true, and people are, oh, they did this, and that.
No.
We'd just be like, well, hey, that was a great Hollywood show. If you want some more facts, or we would just go back. To us, it would be a great push to get further the narrative, and not look at it as,
absolutely.
because I see all the nonsense online of this, and then I'm like, man, you guys are missing a great opportunity to just, of course, Hollywood's going to do their thing, take it for what it is, and that's a golden spoon you're given, and that's another platform to say, hey, yeah, parts of this were true, some may have been a little bit out there, but here's what we actually dealt with and what we're doing. So yeah, I think a movie would be cool.
It'd be interesting to see how they would take it, and
What they would, yeah.
what they would do with it. It'd be interesting to see. It would.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean,
They
Hollywood.
like the couch thing with the in the show, on the Haunting, the episode where she kind of does the backwards flipper on the couch. I don't remember doing that.
No, she didn't. Yeah. But she did move around. I had her wrist, and she kind of, I described it as like a spider crawl. She kind of just scooted all the way to one end of the couch and back to the other. And I'm looking at Father Darren. He's setting out all the implements to do, his rite of exorcism. And he's like, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." Yeah. And I'm praying and doing whatever. She picked up a box to throw at me one time. And I said, "In Jesus' name, no." And as she went to throw it, she threw it across the room, just whizzing by my head. She looked to throw it at me. And then at the last minute, it went away. And there was a lot that'd be another one next time to talk about, just the events leading up to that and going outside and coming back and you're gone. And yeah, everything that we had to deal with that was just really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of scary too, but it was interesting.
kind of scary.
Now, Jason, before we go, Jason, did you ever find at one point during the any exorcism her having what's the word I'm looking for? Her being more stronger than you, I guess is the word what was the resistance? What did it feel like? I'm sure at some point you had to restrain her. So did you find her to be stronger than you?
Yeah. And the answer to that is no. And sometimes I don't know why. I think that's when you just trust God to show up, because there are accounts of, in scripture, they walk in and say, "Hey," and the 7 sons of Sceva, he's like, "I'm so-and-so." And he goes, "Well, Jesus I know and Paul I know, but who are you?" And they beat the 7 sons of Sceva bloody and naked. And that's one guy just out there just, going haywire on them. So that stuff can happen, but I've never had that with her. Now I have had parts where, when that thing came across the yard and she fell on the back of the car, she was sitting on the car, on the hood, she went flat on her back and I could not pick her up. It's like she went rigid, but almost like a magnet was stuck to the hood. That was really, really, that was scary because I could. And then when I got her up, of course, she's terrified. And this was just as things were starting to wrap up. But during the exorcism, he just said, "I need you to keep her there until we get her in the chair." And then we had to get her in the chair, and it was me, and I don't even remember who the other guy was, but
Larry.
Yeah, I think. But we got her up and got her in the chair, and she's writhing around and didn't want to be there. But he commanded her in the name of Jesus to stay there. So I think. And again, I think that's where a relationship with God is. If you know God as a person rather than just somebody you go to church with on Sunday or you've read about, I really do think that makes a difference. But as to why the strength thing hasn't happened, I don't know, because I fully expected. There were times that I'd be like, "Wait, I just can't deal with this. I've got to get out of here." And it hasn't happened yet. I always get close to her.
There were a few incidents as far as not directed toward people, but toward items that there was one time when I got angry about something and it just exploded. I exploded out of nowhere. And I went out the back door and there was this big patio table it had a glass inset. It was metal. And I just took this table with one arm and I flipped it, and the thing flipped 3 times before it landed face down. Jeez. And I had an attack right after that happened.
Damn.
So as far as objects go, there have been some moments, but not toward anybody. I don't think that there's that ability to do that kind of harm to people. And I think that part of that is me as well, because I'm just not going to let it happen. As bad as it'll get, I'm not going to ever let that happen. That's a part that I have vowed that I will never do. So,
Which sounds like a very naive statement for someone to make when something's inside of them controlling them. But unless you've lived the life, you don't understand the veracity of the truth, because there's an unspoken bond of, hey, we kind of have navigated to this point. We understand what to do and what's going on, but it can get hairy. But yeah, I usually try to grab her around the waist, or I grab her wrist and just sit there and we'll talk and pray, and she'll just get really, really, really rigid. And I was only there for the first exorcism. The second one I wasn't there for. But the other times when there have been attacks, I've been there for those. So yeah, I've experienced her going really rigid. And the first exorcism, her eyes glazed over like donut glaze when she was on the floor. And that's really hard to see somebody you love have just look. It's like, that's really, really weird. And that's the only weird physical thing other than the voice. But it's a bunch of growls and clicks and snarls and hisses. It's not like you see on TV where they're speaking this big voice, because even when she spoke Aramaic, you were almost asleep, almost kind of in a trance state, and she just popped out. I said, "What did you say?" And so yeah, the eyes, and then going really rigid, and it's not her face when things happen. It's very square and very pronounced, and then your stomach does. You say it protrudes. To me, it just feels like there's a big knot in there, almost like there's a bowling ball in there that won't move. And I mean, and you can put your hand there and feel it, and it's just really,
Changes
really,
my hands. too.
yeah,
My
it does
hands
change your hands a little bit. So, but that's really all that we've experienced. It's not like, the exorcism.
I don't puke up anything green.
Yeah, no.
Not
Or call
people.
people horrible names or
Yeah, I
anything like
have
that.
done that. But yeah, I say foul things, but I don't, my head's never turned around.
But you say foul things
Yeah.
anyway. We do that anyway. It's like, that's not demonically related at all.
Not usually.
Yeah, it's usually kid related.
Well, if your head turns around, you need to see a chiropractor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I'm still considering the idea that someone had about the holy water swimming pool. I should just
Remember that? Yeah.
just fill it up and jump right in. I'm still thinking about that one, so we'll see.
That would be terrible.
I could go straight to the Catholic Church. That they have a big holy, it has the fountain with the.
Yep.
I could
Yeah,
just
it's the
hop
basin
in
there.
there. It's pretty deep. I could hop in and see
And
what
they
happens.
look at you very weird because I go in there and fill up water
Refill.
bottles, and that's a big tourist spot here in Savannah,
It's
St.
the
John's
big
Cathedral. And so there are tours there, and you're dipping in water. And, hey, how you doing? And they're like, "Are you?"
Water
good?" I'm like, "I'm
bottles.
not."
It's like
I'm
a
not
bad
drinking
scene
this.
from the movie Lost Boys,
Yeah, it really is. It's dipping your Nerf gun in. But yeah, I usually take a couple of water bottles. One time I had a Mountain Dew bottle that I'd washed out, and I just had it there. And the security guards looked at me. I said, "How you doing?" He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Just, and I just capped it and walked out.
And again, PSA: don't drink the holy water.
No,
It doesn't
drink
taste good. It doesn't.
It's not good for you. It's not good for you. It's not internally. It's not medicinal.
no,
So don't.
that was a mistake.
It was a
That
mistake. I
mistaken
did that.
identity, Yeah.
I did. I was given Father Darren gave me water and he said, don't drink it. Immediately I walk out of the room. The first thing I do is uncap and drink it. I don't know why I did it. I
Wasn't
did.
thinking just, yeah.
I did. And it made me sick. So don't drink that. It's not because of demons. It'll just make you sick.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anyway.
Well, all right. We're past that time right now.
Yeah.
It has been a pleasure talking to you too.
You too, guys.
Keep us updated on the page and
Absolutely.
let us know what's going
Teaser
on.
next week.
And see
What
hear
day?
everybody next
Yes.
week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pick a day, guys. Pick a day
You've
for
been,
the teaser and let me know.
What?
Pick a day for the teaser and send it to me. Private message me the day and I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
All right.
You guys can pick the day of the teaser.
All right, that's awesome.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah, so you've been a very popular guest on our show, and everybody is completely supportive of
They
what
are.
you're doing and putting the story out and everything.
And I love you guys.
Yeah, so we really appreciate it, and for me personally, like I just want to say thanks again for getting your story out to everybody. I think it's great what you're doing.
Thank you for having me, guys. And Jason.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Yes,
Jason.
thank you.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
All right.
Don't forget about Jason. All right, Cindy and Jason, YouTube land, Facebook land. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
All right.
All
Peace
right.
out.
Guys,
All right.
thank you.
Peace out.
Bye, guys.